What if the very situation that looks impossible right now is the place where God is preparing something completely new for your life? What if your waiting is not a delay, but a divine setup? Many people are praying for change, yet they are still holding on to yesterday's methods, yesterday's fears, and yesterday's disappointments. They ask God to move, but they quietly expect Him to repeat the past. Today, God is not asking you to relive what once worked. He is inviting you to trust Him for something new. There are seasons when effort is no longer enough, when experience is no longer sufficient, and when human wisdom reaches its limit. That is the moment God steps in, not to repair the old, but to create the new. If you are tired of cycles that never change, if you feel stuck between promise and fulfillment, this message is for you. Stay with this word until the end, because what you hear today may unlock faith for the next chapter of your life. Many people have a picture in their mind of how God should work in their lives. They expect blessings to arrive neatly, like a train arriving on schedule. They assume that answers to prayer will come in ways that are comfortable, predictable, and easy to understand. But God does not always work that way. In fact, some of the most powerful, life-changing movements of God occur in seasons when everything seems impossible, when the situation looks hopeless, and when human hope has run out. These are the moments when God is about to do a new thing. The Bible is full of stories where God chose the most unlikely time to bring a miracle. Think of Abraham and Sarah waiting for decades for a child, long after the human possibility seemed gone. Or Joseph, thrown into a pit and later imprisoned before God elevated him to save nations. What do these stories teach us? They teach us that God does not wait for the perfect moment to act. He acts in seasons where human wisdom fails, in moments where nothing seems ready, in times when all natural resources have been exhausted. These unexpected seasons are not signs of abandonment. They are the very canvas upon which God paints something entirely new. Many people are not prepared to receive God's new thing because they are still clinging to old expectations. They want God to bless them, but they want Him to bless them in the same ways He has blessed before. They pray for progress, but they are unwilling to step into discomfort, to let go of their comfort zones, or to release their own plans. God does not always repeat the past. Often, He introduces something radically new, and this requires faith that goes beyond what the mind can understand. If you are waiting for God to do a new thing, you must prepare to trust Him in ways you have never trusted before. The wilderness seasons of life, the periods of waiting, the moments of silence, these are not accidental. They are the very times God uses to stretch our faith. When we are comfortable, it is easy to rely on ourselves. When life is easy, we can lean on our own strength, our own understanding, and our own resources. But when circumstances press in, when doors close, when disappointments pile up, when human strategies fail, we are forced to depend fully on God. And it is in that dependence that God begins to do something new. Too often, we are impatient in these seasons. We cry out to God for a breakthrough, but are frustrated that it does not come immediately. We try to manipulate circumstances, force solutions, or rush the process. But God's timing is never flawed. He is preparing the right conditions, orchestrating the right people, and aligning the events of your life so that the new thing He wants to do will be complete, lasting, and transformative. If we miss the patience and trust required in these unexpected seasons, we may also miss the fullness of what God wants to give. Consider the story of Moses. God's plan for him to lead the Israelites out of Egypt did not begin in a palace or with immediate authority. It began in the desert, tending sheep, away from recognition, with only a staff in his hand and lessons in humility and obedience in his heart. That period may have seemed wasted or unnecessary to human eyes, but it was preparing Moses for the impossible task ahead. God often works in this way. He allows the ordinary, the hidden, the difficult, and the uncomfortable seasons to train our faith, shape our character, and prepare us for the new things He will do. God also often begins His new work where people feel the weakest. This is not accidental. When we are strong, we may rely on our own power. When we are capable, we may take credit for outcomes. But when we are at our weakest, when hope has almost disappeared, when the resources are gone, God steps in. He takes the impossible and transforms it into victory. He takes barren soil and produces fruit. He takes silence and turns it into song. He takes scarcity and turns it into abundance. These are the signs of a God who delights in doing new things in unexpected seasons. Do not underestimate the power of seasons that seem unproductive or unfruitful. Just because nothing appears to be happening does not mean God is absent. Often, the seed of the new thing is being planted quietly in your life during these times. Just as a farmer does not see growth immediately after planting the seed, you may not immediately see the results of what God is doing. But under the surface, there is preparation happening. Preparation in your character, in your understanding, in your faith, and even in your relationships. Every moment, every trial, every season of waiting can become the foundation for something God is about to do that is greater than anything you have ever imagined. Many people fail to recognize these seasons because they are looking for dramatic signs, sudden breakthroughs, or immediate answers. They want God to move on their schedule. They are impatient and distracted by the desire for instant results. But God's new things often come quietly, gradually, and unexpectedly. They may arrive when you are least prepared to notice, but perfectly timed for your life. This is why faith is so important. Faith allows you to trust in God's unseen work, to believe that He is moving even when circumstances suggest otherwise, and to remain expectant when others might give up. It is also important to understand that God does not simply repeat old patterns. He is a God of creativity, renewal, and transformation. The new thing He wants to do in your life may look very different from what you have experienced before. It may challenge your logic, require courage you did not know you had, or call you into opportunities you never imagined. But these new things are always perfect because they come from God, and His plan for your life is far greater than what you can see, understand, or plan. If you are in a season where life feels difficult, barren, or unchanging, do not be discouraged. Do not give up. Do not settle for the ordinary when God is preparing the extraordinary. Remember that the greatest victories often come after the longest waits. The clearest direction often comes after the hardest challenges, and the most powerful blessings often arrive when we least expect them. Trust the timing of God, trust His wisdom, and trust His heart. He has not forgotten you. He is not late. He is simply preparing to do something new in your life that will exceed every expectation. Trust is one of the most powerful forces in a believer's life, yet it is also one of the most difficult to fully embrace. Many people say they trust God, but their actions reveal otherwise. True trust is not simply a statement of belief, it is an active posture, a decision to place your life, your circumstances, and your future in the hands of God, even when the path is unclear, even when the outcome seems impossible, and even when fear whispers that it will not work out. Trust opens the door to God's new thing because it releases the power of God to move in ways that our human understanding cannot. Most of us want certainty. We want clear signs, a step-by-step roadmap, or guarantees that things will work out. But God's new things often require stepping into the unknown. They require moving forward when the path is not visible. They demand faith that goes beyond what the eye can see or the mind can calculate. This is because God's ways are higher than our ways, and His plans are far greater than anything we could engineer on our own. Trust allows us to align ourselves with His plan instead of trying to force our own. When we trust God, we say, I may not see it, I may not understand it, but I believe you are working all things for my good. Trust is not passive waiting. It is not sitting idle, hoping for a miracle to drop from the sky. It is an active engagement with God's promises. It means obeying His instructions, even when you do not understand them fully. It means taking steps forward, however small, toward the direction He is pointing you. Trust requires action that reflects confidence in God rather than fear of circumstances. Abraham trusted God enough to leave his familiar home for a land he had never seen. Daniel trusted God enough to enter a den of lions. Trust transforms ordinary obedience into extraordinary breakthroughs. Many people fail to receive God's new things because their trust is conditional. They want to believe, but only if it makes sense to them, only if it fits into their timeline, only if it does not require sacrifice. But God's new things rarely look familiar. They may disrupt your comfort, challenge your logic, or demand a level of faith that feels uncomfortable. If you want to experience something new in your life, you must be willing to let go of the old ways of thinking, the old methods of achieving success, and the old limitations you have placed on what God can do. Trust allows you to release control and embrace God's infinite wisdom. Trust also transforms fear into hope. Fear and trust cannot occupy the same space. When we are filled with fear, we are looking at what could go wrong, at obstacles, at failures, and at limitations. But when we choose to trust God, our focus shifts from the problem to the provider. Faith does not ignore reality, it simply refuses to be paralyzed by it. Trust sees the hand of God working behind the scenes, even when circumstances suggest otherwise. It believes that no situation is too difficult for Him, no challenge is too great, and no delay is wasted. Trust turns waiting into preparation, challenges into lessons, and setbacks into stepping stones. One of the most beautiful aspects of trusting God is that it allows Him to reveal His creativity and power in ways that we could never anticipate. When we insist on controlling the outcome, we limit the possibilities. But when we fully trust God, we release Him to act beyond our imagination. Consider the story of the Israelites crossing the Red Sea. They were trapped, surrounded by impossible circumstances, and faced with fear that would have frozen most people in place. But when they trusted God and stepped forward, the impossible became possible. The waters parted. God revealed a path that no human wisdom could have provided. This is the power of trust. It allows God to demonstrate His glory in ways that surpass anything we could imagine. Trust also requires patience. Many people give up on trusting God because they do not see immediate results. They pray, wait, and then grow frustrated when circumstances remain the same. But trust is not measured by instant gratification. It is measured by steadfast confidence over time. God's timing is perfect, and His new things often arrive when we are most ready to handle them. Impatience can blind us to the subtle ways God is preparing us, the lessons He is teaching us, and the foundations He is laying. True trust waits faithfully, even in silence, believing that the unseen work of God is more powerful than the visible obstacles. Another critical aspect of trust is surrender. To trust God fully, you must surrender your expectations, your plans, and even your understanding. You must say, Lord, I release my ideas of how this should happen. I may not understand, but I trust you to do it your way. Surrender is not weakness, it is the ultimate demonstration of strength, for it acknowledges that God's wisdom surpasses your own. When you surrender, God is free to move in ways that defy logic, timing, and natural limitations. He is free to create something new that your mind could never have engineered. Many people underestimate how much trust can influence God's work in their lives. They pray and hope, but their hearts are full of doubt, anxiety, and hesitation. They may even ask God for miracles, but fail to take steps that demonstrate faith. Yet trust is the channel through which God's power flows. Without trust, blessings may be delayed, opportunities may be missed, and breakthroughs may not manifest. Trust does not make God act, but it positions you to receive all that He is ready to give. It opens your heart, mind, and life to the new things He is preparing. Trust is also relational. It is the acknowledgement that God is not distant, indifferent, or unaware. He is present, attentive, and actively involved in your life. To trust Him is to believe that He cares enough to orchestrate the details, guide the steps, and intervene at the right moment. Trust allows you to lean not on your own strength, but on His presence. It allows you to release anxiety, stop striving in vain, and rest in the assurance that God's plan is perfect. When you truly trust God, you walk with confidence, knowing that the Creator of the universe is working on your behalf, shaping the future in ways you cannot yet see. Finally, trust opens the door to new experiences, new blessings, and new opportunities. God's new things are often blocked by our lack of faith, our skepticism, or our insistence on familiar methods. When we trust, we step into alignment with God's will. We allow Him to work in ways that exceed our imagination. We open our hearts to transformation, renewal, and breakthrough. Trust is the key that unlocks the door to God's new thing, and without it, even the most faithful prayers may remain unanswered in the sense of manifestation. When God is about to do a new thing in your life, He does not only change circumstances, He transforms you from the inside out. A new thing requires a new heart. Many people desire blessings, breakthroughs, and miracles, yet they attempt to receive them with the same mindset, the same habits, and the same attitudes they had yesterday. But God is not interested in simply giving you more of what you already have. He wants to renew you, refine you, and prepare you to carry the new things He is about to place in your hands. If your heart is old, hardened, or tied to past failures, it will resist the new thing God wants to do. But when your heart is ready, when it is soft, humble, and surrendered, God can pour His new vision, His fresh ideas, and His divine purpose into your life. Letting go of the past is a crucial part of receiving the new. This includes not only past failures and disappointments, but also past successes. Sometimes victories from yesterday can become chains, holding you back from what God wants to do today. You may have been celebrated, recognized, or even comfortable in the past, but God's new work may require a shift. You cannot carry the weight of yesterday's expectations into the promise of tomorrow. To receive a new thing, your heart must release the old, trusting that God is leading you into something greater, something purer, and something designed specifically for this new season. A new heart also requires humility. Pride blocks God's new work because it convinces us that we know better, that we have the answers, or that we can control the outcome. Humility opens the door for God to do something extraordinary. When you recognize your dependence on Him, when you acknowledge that His ways are higher than your ways, and when you surrender your personal ambitions to His divine will, God begins to reveal a vision that your own eyes could not have seen. This vision is often radically different from what you expected, because God's new things are never limited by human reasoning. God's new thing often comes with new vision. Vision is more than hope. It is a divine perspective that allows you to see what God is doing behind the scenes. Without vision, even the blessings God sends can be overlooked or misused. Many people miss God's new work because they cannot see it for what it truly is. They are looking for familiar patterns or waiting for it to appear exactly as they imagined. But God's vision is unique, creative, and often challenging. It allows you to perceive opportunities where others see obstacles, to recognize purpose in pain, and to anticipate breakthrough in the middle of delay. A new heart and new vision go hand in hand because you cannot embrace what God is showing you if your heart remains tied to old ways of thinking. Transformation often begins in silence, in the places where no one is watching, and in the moments when you feel most unseen. These are the times when God prepares your heart, cultivates your character, and strengthens your faith. Many people desire visible miracles, yet the most important work is often invisible. God reshapes your understanding, stretches your patience, and develops your perseverance. He teaches you to walk by faith, not by sight, and to depend on Him for guidance, provision, and wisdom. When your heart is transformed, you are no longer bound by fear, doubt, or limitation. You are free to receive the fullness of what God has prepared. God's new work also requires forgiveness. Holding on to resentment, bitterness, or past hurts can block the flow of His blessings. If you want to embrace a new thing, you must first release the old grudges and offenses that weigh your heart down. Forgiveness does not mean forgetting. It means letting go so that your heart is ready to receive. When your heart is free from the weight of the past, God can fill it with His joy, His creativity, and His purpose. The new thing cannot enter a heart that is divided, bitter, or focused on what has already failed. God requires hearts that are ready to move forward, unencumbered and open to His possibilities. Many people underestimate the power of a renewed heart in receiving God's new things. They focus on external changes, like wealth, promotion, or recognition, and assume that blessings alone will transform their lives. But God's new work always begins internally. He starts with your heart, your mind, and your spirit. When these are aligned with Him, every external blessing becomes multiplied and lasting. Without a new heart, even the greatest opportunity can be wasted. With a new heart, even the smallest step of obedience can become the foundation for miracles. Faith plays a critical role in this transformation. A new heart and new vision require you to believe not only in what God has done, but also in what He is about to do. Faith allows you to see beyond current circumstances, beyond limitations, and beyond past failures. It connects your heart to God's promises, enabling you to move forward with courage and confidence. Faith sees the invisible, trusts the impossible, and perseveres through trials. It is the soil in which God's new thing can take root and grow. Without faith, the new thing may come and go without being fully realized in your life. God also equips those with a new heart to carry responsibility for the new things He gives. Blessings, visions, and opportunities are not merely rewards, they are responsibilities. A heart that has been renewed can steward what God provides with wisdom, humility, and integrity. It can multiply opportunities, inspire others, and leave a lasting impact. The transformation God works internally prepares you to carry externally what He is placing in your hands. The heart must match the calling, and the vision must match the season. Without this alignment, even the most significant blessing can lose its purpose. Another essential aspect of receiving a new thing is obedience. A new heart produces a willingness to obey God's voice, even when it challenges comfort, logic, or tradition. Obedience is the bridge between faith and fulfillment. When God asks you to take a step, even if it seems small or risky, your response demonstrates your readiness to receive the new thing. The heart that is willing to obey will see doors open, barriers removed, and opportunities unfold that those unwilling to obey cannot perceive. God's new work is never passive. It requires participation, commitment, and alignment with His will. Finally, a new heart and new vision foster gratitude. Gratitude is the recognition that every new thing comes from God and is not simply a result of your effort. A heart full of thankfulness acknowledges God's hand in every detail, sees His provision in every circumstance, and celebrates His faithfulness. Gratitude keeps the heart humble, focused, and open. It allows the blessings, the visions, and the transformations to flourish because a grateful heart is a receptive heart. Without gratitude, even the most miraculous work can be taken for granted. But with it, every new thing becomes a source of continual growth, joy, and faith.